Greetings, I'm Mike Shatright, and today we'll be talking about the Voth Stronghold Miracle Worker Dreadnought Cruiser. And this is going to be contain a budget build, but it's more preview. And it's very tempting to quote Austin Powers 2. Well, use the shape of the ship. Okay, let's actually go and talk about the stats of the ship. Really the quick introduction. The Voth Stronghold Miracle Worker Dreadnought Cruiser was released on September the 2nd, which was a couple of days, which was over a week ago now. And this is a remake of the old discontinued Tier 5 Voth Bulwark, which when you get hold of the Stronghold, will get hold of that skin, but which is the original. The Tier 5 Bulwark is a very limited supply, especially since the May 2022 Phoenix store update. Prior to the introduction to the Phoenix store, the Bulwark was extremely hard ship to get past as a limited time price pack, but it's a Stronghold worth doing the test to get it. Okay. Moving on to the budget builds for basically that we're currently using, and I don't know who's been writing these notes. Yes, I've not made this one a quickie. Seriously. I can tell you why I'm wrong about Austin Powers 2, but quick rules are basically I don't really count any C-store purchases if there is one, and of course lockboxes and lobby items aren't counted, as well as any lobby prizes from the year-long event campaign, which many players can get hold of at the time if you started from January of 2025. And these are most of course, most of my builds are based on the approximate age of an active player with a level 65 character. Common drops can be crafted by any player that have a chance to drop in most contents, and was to apply this time to day X builds in the build video often are made in a line of progression. And yeah, basically, whilst again most of the time when I have multiple builds in a video, day 90 stuff will can always work on day 1 build if you have the day 90 stuff already. And then, but most items I consider covering common that are not common drops are repeatable mission rewards. I consider expensive and won't be replaced in native builds. Might get moved around though. My item ranks mod rarities that I don't use a cat note unless I need to explicitly state them, and you will see that later on. This is more of a guide for newer players and, well, not the ideal means to get down in tanking in this case. And as a reminder, some more stuff, no limited time events have to be counted with alongside the ship builds. Times of the exclusion to this one is basically, which doesn't apply this at the moment, is any of the items that you can pick up during the initial time to return the ship can be used. Remember, this only applies to this ship. This doesn't apply to this ship because there's no other free items. It only applies to the Christmas and summer events, really. Some builds, such as the T5U, the Sea-Star or Fleet, will include additional equipment slots to be noted, and an item when noticeable will as an option in its place. I also may include some notes where with a Tier 5X, Tier 6X or T6X2 builds whenever I do. Occasionally I will actually bend and break rules for the day rules. Okay, day 1 basically is basically just picks up the ship and is pretty much just hit level 65. I deliberately usually use the Desert Sphere as a cut-off point, but that's not really much. No, just because we're not going to have to do much with day 1. Normally, I would be using day 14 for this one. This day 14 or day 20, I built for mainly event ships and with allowance to obtain items for the ship. So it's effectively the same as day 1 builds, but the following changes are any mission world can be considered, and as a player will probably have completed all the story missions during the event, and certain event items may be considered as well. Day 30, again, anything that I've previously used can be used to get again, and I've decided to use this day 30 as an approximate date for whenever a player hits tier 5 on reputation. Tiers 5 onwards of reputation will unlock most items within the given reputation with alternative flavours for weapon types. Will be unlocked tier 6, which will be covered later. I usually delayed competitive just because due to the amount of trickiness to get a match started or completing a random TFO, which however many event ships actually make it easier to get hold of a competitive mark anyway, so and any mission was available if you hadn't already got that. Tier 6 basically everything's a lot of other things I've started unlocking, such as any equipment for day 30 builds can be used to, of course, this is when I can grab alternative flavours and reputations for most things, except for competitive, which is usually because I've deliberately made that as a start to that 30 days later, so that ends up being a tier 5 at that point. Rank 3 bridge officer skills are now available, and of course limited number of skills that you could pick up during out in which requires you to purchase something will be ignored, and there's only one specialization bridge officer outside mission world are usually counted. Day 90, this is one anything from day 18 for the day 60 builds and older will be counted. Reputation gear can be gear can be used. Usually fleet gear can be used. Advanced gear such as the ISO mags or rank 15 R&D gear such as the 360 beam ray can be used, and I'm not going to have a limit on specialization bridge officers. And towards the end I will always have something called paying considerations. These won't be applied to a build, but these items I usually pick from the C-Store and previous event rewards, and usually get looking due to the pretty decent gear. Items considered will often be very useful for a build, and I won't, as I said, I don't integrate them into the build. And highlighted paid items will often increase the effectiveness of some core ideas around the build, or just basically playing to prove it. So these items I personally would use if I were to fly this ship the ship in question on a regular basis. If I hadn't, in some cases I don't fly it. Okay, we got some ship comparison and initial thoughts. Well, at least we're not comparing minimums of certain items. Yeah, I couldn't script writer couldn't think of something rude about that one. Okay, we've got 3. Well, I usually pick 3 ships around here. I've deliberately picked up. Of course, we've got the Voth Stronghold Miracle Worker Dreadnought on the left. In the middle is the Garrett, which is the anniversary 2025 ship, so that'll be from February this year, and is another Dreadnought type ship, so that's pretty decent. And then the Galaxy Exploration Cruiser retrofit, which is T5U. Oh, actually, T5U and T5U. I picked this one because this is probably the closest free ship that anyone can get at any one given time. I mean, really, all free ships here are technically free at some point in time. Okay, as I said, the Voth Stronghold has got the highest hull, a decent shield mod which has got decent shields, way better than the Galaxy would have, and slightly less than the Gout would have, and its ship turns a bit. Its Voth ship is a bit of a slog to fly around using the stats, but it's not as bad as it's not too bad as the Galaxy is, and I've flown the Galaxy before. I mean, there isn't too much to note other than the Galaxy has way too much engineering seating, and it's technically not a Dreadnought like the Voth Stronghold or the Command Alliance Dreadnought. Now now, as I said, the Dreadnoughts both have 5 forward and 3 aft weapons, which is considered one of the better things for this. And again, the Galaxy it suffers from being a low-end T5, and well, it's the only one that gets T5U, and this is the only thing I can add besides the fact that the T5U gets, when you upgrade the T5 to T5U, you get a lot more hull, and you gain a third tactical seat when you upgrade. That's purely because of how the T5U system works. The Voth Stronghold is the one for ownership in the lot. His lots can equip dual cannons, which is very nice. Of course, the unique console is the announced what repair ship. I'll cover this a bit more detail in later, and of course got some other things like it's got innovation and effects for being a military ship, and has a hangar bay and it has certain cruise commands, same with Garrett. And the starship trait is different from beef ships, and I'll cover the starship trait a little later. Alright, so moving on to my initial thoughts. Now, I had to take a long and hard think about this one. Again, the stats for this ship is mostly built around survival. It's got one of the highest hull and shields in the game, and it's pretty much tied to 6 with the most hull. I mean, with this bulk, it's quite slow in turns, and Milk and Work and Intel are two pretty decent specialists that work well together when paired together, but the only main issue is that the Intel is on the universal seating, which most players will want to use as a tactical seat due to the lack of other tactical seats in it. The console increases the already large hull and boosts the shield regen, which makes the survival of the ship a lot better. But this clicky power is not really useful unless you die, and which you probably won't, especially if you're a good enough player. However, the trait really encourages you to take some damage and then heal it off and do some damage. However, the early testing of this trait really suggests it's underperforming how it's been encoded, and I'm gonna have to, and I deliberately made the bridge officers, some of the bridge officer skills work, assuming that there's been a fix in the works of the trait, but it doesn't really matter too much because I've not really considered the trait too much too. But yeah, I've got some thoughts on the build and things that I think would be better to be aware of. With a slow turn rate, I think it's better to use beams, but some experienced captains can and will be able to use cannons. But this is also good to say that you won't want to use a 360 Omni Beam or two worth if you count the cutting beam 3. While the Stronghold may come with Voth proton weaponry, I didn't manage to catch some other people unboxing it already. There is no real requirement for an energy weapon type with anything on the ship that comes with that. I want that energy type. There are reasons to go for phaser and disruptor I can think of, but this ship is very much taking damage and giving it out. But for the cooldown reduction, I've got quite a few options. Given that we've got up to a Lieutenant Commander Science seat, we can definitely run photonic after 2 or 3, one or two on the ship. And given that we've got enough, we've got at least 2 Lieutenant Universal seats in addition to the engineering seat. If we make the Lieutenant Universal engineering seat, we could easily run an Ox about with the right duty officer applied. But I've made some thoughts about it, and I've decided to make my ideas. Basically, what you should really be picking up. You should definitely pick up beams, or if I'm going to use, I'm making a beam build for this guide. So yeah, some action, and you have got the action tactical ISOMAG consoles. ISOMAGs are more expensive to get build, but they are the best things in slot. So I've deliberately we got to mention something about omnibeams. We can equip a set omnibeam, a non-set omnibeam, and the kinetic cutting beam, which is technically not counted as a beam, but works effectively as a beam in a sense. Some senses. Several reputations will have a set omnibeam of two different energy types, and some missions will have a set 360 omnibeam as well. So you can easily get an omnibeam for whatever you want. Actually, there's more set omnibeams available than you need to. Some set omnibeams are only craftable, and the remaining ones are only available in lockbox price. But they're not common, but they are able to be traded and put on the exchange, so you can get them without, if you want to put in some effort and get some stuff, even if you don't have omnibeams unlocked by crafting. I've put some things I would consider using. I would go for the competitive impulse engines and the discovery warp core defactor and shields. And I would and with most energy builds, I decided Locus custom fire controls is probably one of the best things for it. And day 90, and that's enough for play. Oh, dear. I really do really regret to letting them loose on the notes here. So we have we've decided to make this a phaser build. So, and I'm just going to go straight to day 90, which is pretty much the tail end. I technically have a day 120, which I've never used and might never use again. Right, so forward weapons are phaser beam, phaser beam, 2 phaser beams. That's only because I couldn't find 2 big nice things to use, but you can use any type of phaser beams. But I decided to pick up the quantum phase beam ray, which is phaser beam ray. From the mission Sunrise. You'll be playing Sunrise at least twice to get the full set, by the way, of the full set of things we want to pick up for this mission. And then and I'm going to rely heavily on the discovery set. You can see. So I've picked up a decent piece of gear in the game, which is a wide angle dual heavy phaser beam bag from the discovery repetition, and also from the discovery repetition the diametric quantum torpedo and that is as I said, that you will be picking a lot up from that discovery repetition, so that's a big thing to note. Okay, in the rear, well, I've just picked up a phaser omni beam for it. This is going to be, and this one's just basically you pick this one up by crafting or pulling off the exchange. They're quite expensive, but they're not so expensive compared to the various other ships, other items you can pick up on the exchange. Especially when I'm picking up the standard. When I mentioned it, it's a standard one I'm using, but you could use any one, but that's not a part of the set. Now, the set one I've deliberately picked up the Gamma Reputations Advanced Inhibiting Phase Omni Beam Direction Beam Ray. Okay, and the Kinetic Cutting Beam from Task Force Major, which will be the Bog Reputation. Okay, we got Deflector, Impulse, and Warp Current Shields as well. So the Deflector is an unbionic master deflector from the Discovery Reputation. The Warp Core is the Mycelial Harmonic Matter Warp Core from Discovery Reputation, and the shields are pending modified shields also from Discovery Reputation. Now I'm going to make this. If you don't wonder why I've deliberately marked the impulse engines with a innovative impulse engines, different is because there are 3 impulse engines, and they're basically the prevailing something impulse engines are that they are, but innovative is what you want for the best build for this type of ship. So that's what I call the non-console section. So now the consoles. These are all going to be in the rough order is from top to bottom on the on what you can pick up. And again, this is a phaser build, and I'm deliberately making this clear. And this is since day 90. We can use the advanced consoles, and we're going to be picking up between 5 and 7 advanced engineering anti-mag plasma reducing manifold consoles. And this is the only time I've actually made this. One of the few times I've actually made it clear there is actually a modifier you need to pick up for this one. That's phaser, Phaser, not FHA. FHA is a defensive one. It is a phaser defense boosting one. FHA SER is a phaser damage increasing console, and we've got pretty much the maximum nearly much maximum you can pick up from this. Now I picked up a few things, and one of them is engineering. I've put some in the reinforced elements from Beyond the Nexus Bureau, because I've originally had other items from the Beyond the Nexus in this build, and well, it's a decent console which you might want to keep. Then there's advanced. Then of course the fourth phase for Mags with the phaser mod on it again. I also point out that in the universal slot, I've mentioned that this is because the ship automatically comes with a universal slot on its when you get it out of the box, you get one universal slot. If you upgrade to tier 6X, you get a second slot, and if you upgrade to tier X2, you get a third universal slot. In this case, you want to shove the exact same stuff in all three cases, so I've kept it the same. I've deliberately just picked up a Dreadnought for secondary ×3 for the science slot, because I couldn't think of anything else really for science, really. And with the tactical slots, I normally I would stick what these are basically the universal slots I deliberately, except for the custom fire controls, which is an engineering slot item, and the ordnance accelerated from the game reputation, and the quantum phase converted from Sunrise, which is technically a universal slot which can move around to the science if you wish, but the for secretary can't move it into the tactical seats. So those are the consoles that I've picked. May not be the best, but that's probably pretty decent. And now we're on to the bridge officer. Again, this is built for a beam build, and I would change these around for a scatter volley build, which but there isn't too much difference. It's going to be basically the tactical seats, so it's happen. So basically, engineer and miracle worker, I basically put engineering team 1 and not structural 1 in this slot. I also point out that whenever I put something in it, engineering slot, you can swap between the positions as long as it's in the same power. So basically, engineering team 1 or immense power to weapons 1 can go in that first slot. These are all basically the weakest power to the strongest power. And the universal, I'm going to mark that as put a tactical officer in there with an intel specialization, and this time it's forgot the 2 miracle powers on the engineer first. So the miracle work powers are narrow sensor bands 3 and mixed armor synergy 3, but basically narrow sensor bands 3 is an enemy debuff on, as far as I can tell, and mixed armor synergy, I'm not really sure if it's the best thing to run, but I really do not want to know what to put in that commander seat, because it's always been a swine, even with everything unlocked. I said the tactical with intel, I've got tactical team and being firewall being firewall 3 for the tactical seats, and intel. The only intel power on this ship is going to be override subsystem safety 2. This will give you a lot more power to various subsystems, where the problem is that one of the powers will suddenly disable after such an amount of time. You can repair them by activating either emergency power to weapons, emergency power to engines, or engineering team, I think it is, to clear this, to get the engines subsystem offline at the time. Although I believe science team might clear some of the stuff up. With science, I've just gone for the pure basics of it. So we've got a shield, canvas shield hill with science team 1. Got hazard emitters 2 for in the seconds as a hull hill, and photonic officer to reset cooldowns for everything that's on the ship. And my universal assault I've put in engineering. It's emergency power to weapon engines, which gets you around the map faster, and you can find a certain Phoenix Star emergency hologram to help you with that, and emergency power to weapons 2, which will get you gets your weapons up a lot quicker, gets your weapons up quite a bit. And I've cut the last tactical C tab, just because it's 1 inch in power, it's going to be torpedo spread, although some people will want something like Kino sight, but that's not a option on day 90 builds. Okay, pay considerations. Although Kino-sight's not here, I've deliberately gone for the Gagarin and the Q's, or the Q's entwined tactical matrices, and I've considered it worth for anyone who's using a beam fire at will setup, just because it's the cheapest and the most easiest way to get consistent beam fire at will at in many as you can, besides a certain console first generation that I'm going to mention later. Not too much later. Right, the Defiant, and well, this is one, the Wyvern Barrage traded on 6 ships, and Defiant is the more famous one, and it's actually on 2 Defiants actually, and a couple of other ships. So the Wyvern Barrage is ideal for anyone who wants to use kind of scattervolley builds, and it's considered, if you want to use cannon scattervolley, Wyvern Barrage is pretty much near ideal, pretty much near perfect thing to pick up. Okay, the Arbiters and some and 4 different ships also have the emergency weapon cycle, and this is always a viable option with many weapon builds, due to the fact that emergency weapon cycle provides a weapon haste, so basically more shots off in energy weapon builds. So every time you hit emergency power to weapons, emergency cycle will kick off. Now I've picked up Pavan Proton Super Weaponry Set from 2024's featured event, which is considered by many, or some at least, that it's one of the better weapon sets in the game. Now, this may be worth using when it comes in the mods of the Phoenix Star, but unless you have it, I can't just getting it. Now, the newest kid on the block, the Breen Voth Dreadnought carrier. It has the Breen's Free Fire, which is effectively the fire at will version of the Wyvern Barrage. This ship is sadly one of the worst things one of the expensive ships you can pick up and get, and it's mostly due to the fact it's a 2025 addition to the Infinity Promo Pack, and it still won't be available until 2026's year-long event campaign. So that's the reason why it's not really worth picking up. It's not really worth super big looking for it, but it's one of those things that it's the best trait. If I had to pick one for my build, that would be the one I'd pick, even though I can't actually use it. The big question that some people are asking, is it worth getting? Yes it does. Well, more I'm down to, I don't think there's anything else to, it's a decent tier 6 ship, and there's no, some of the stuff's not going to be poor. It's probably one of the best better ships that you can get for a long while. So, anyway, this has been Mike Sharpwhite saying enough for last time. Actually, we've got some changes coming up in the next few weeks, and I don't think I'll be able to. And well, see, well, this channel's going to be staying around. They might have changed by then. Anyway, see you guys next time.